Now for the moment you have all been waiting for, the latest from Max Keiser. I recently transcribed, actually today, his most recent interview in Bitcoin price predictions. Very powerful words to share, so let's break this down. So first and foremost, he says, the world is a very different place, and everyone will say nobody saw it coming, but it has clearly been brewing now for many years. And it's like every single day you can just see the catastrophe inching toward the abyss. You know, we're at the zero line. Preach. He also says it is a global fiat money game, and you see different countries where fiat money regimes are collapsing in real time, right? Facts. Argentina, you know, the countries like this, or like Lebanon, recently had a complete collapse or a central bank collapse. That's right. And inflation is definitely an indication that your fiat money regime is in dire straits, and inflation is breaking out in a big way. It is not going to return to where it was before this latest inflation break. Inflation and the collapse of fiat money is here now. People are feeling it right now, and the quality of life all over the world is being impacted by it, and it's being impacted in the United States. You know, people can't buy a home. People can't afford food. The price of oil and energy is now starting to ramp back up again. So it's playing out right now, and there is nothing that can be done to stop this inflation because the economy is completely out of control. So even the interest on the debt in the United States is now over $1 trillion. So I think it is the biggest line item on the budget, bigger than the military. What we were told for decades was, oh, you know, it's trickle down economics, or what you have, what not. I mean, and he goes on to share with Bitcoin, it's kind of the end of price discovery because everything will be priced in Bitcoin eventually. Preach. Everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. And so for someone like myself who has been following this for 40 years, finance markets, technology, Bitcoin is the holy grail. It is the end all. I would say my compatriot in all of this is the one and only Michael Saylor. When you hear Michael Saylor talk, he talks about the aesthetics of Bitcoin, the beauty of Bitcoin, and he speaks about it in a way that I think carries the torch from the Max and Stacy from 2011. He started buying it, I guess, when it was 10 or 12,000 a coin or so in 2020 era. So we were there from 2011 to 2020. I think he's kind of carried the torch from 2020 in a lot of ways and introduced Bitcoin to massive pools of capital. I am surprised that more companies haven't followed his lead, giving up the break in inflation we have had. Exactly as Michael Saylor predicted, the melting ice cube, as he called it at that time, is exactly what happened. Well, I guess we can say now we're in a new era where BlackRock and those other major institutions are now looking at Bitcoin. So his work on the institutional level, I guess, is now bearing fruit 3 years later. I see in the Middle East, they are starting to recognize Bitcoin. So that's a huge pool of capital. I think all of that oil money will find its way into Bitcoin and be a huge catalyst for the prices. It is a natural way for the oil industry to diversify their portfolio because Bitcoin is essentially energy, and the energy eventually gets priced in Bitcoin. And there is a marriage between these two in a big way. So I think that's kind of the answer. I have always been fascinated by price discovery in markets and the architecture of how markets work under the hood. And Bitcoin is such a pristine, perfect money, and I think it is something that humans have been searching for since forever, and now we're seeing it change society on a really fundamental level with the introduction of Bitcoin. And a lot of people are freaking out because of it, because it destroys the status quo. And a lot of people who have been waiting for it to come along have had the faith that humanity can be saved. They see Bitcoin in those terms. So you have this split going on, which is very exciting. So it just continues on and on. And you cannot, how could you not be interested in it? I think the people who were into it earlier and just walked away just never got it from the beginning. Once it's characterized as an asset class, we have nothing to do except position ourselves in this asset class. Either we are going to be a small position or a big position, but we cannot ignore it. We cannot not have a position. Now check this out. So even 1% of that multi-hundred trillion dollar funds available moves the needle on Bitcoin, and it moves it up considerably. He's referencing the $700 trillion plus total addressable market, and he continues. So if we get into the 5 to 10% range, then you start to really see it raise ahead to the 7-figure type predictions that people have been making, including myself, because Bitcoin is an asset class. Preach. And on the flip side, we have what we saw in the gold market, which is the ability to control the price discovery and manipulate the prices. It's real through the derivatives markets. So the price of gold has been lagging inflation for 20 years because the governments around the world don't like gold making their fiat money look bad. That's right. So they make it easy for the huge funds to manipulate the price of gold and to scalp it to continuously skim profits off of gold, which is what they do almost every single day. You can watch it and see it. It's pretty clear. And they are very good at keeping the price of gold and silver down. There's something like for every ounce of silver, there's probably 50 ounces worth of derivatives floating in various exchanges around the world that are used to keep the price of silver down because governments don't want gold to race ahead and draw capital out of their fiat money scam and into gold. He's preaching. Now with Bitcoin, we have the ability to pull our private keys, which is not really available with gold. Technically, people can take delivery of gold on these exchanges, but there's never been an organized attempt to do so. We tried to do it a few years ago with Crash JP Morgan, buy gold and silver, because after the 2008 financial crisis, when JP Morgan ended up buying Bear Stearns effectively for nothing, they inherited this huge multi-million short silver position that Bear Stearns was managing at the behest of presumably the government. The government likes to stay involved. And so I did some calculations, and it became clear that if this short position was not covered, the price of silver could go to $60 to $70 an ounce, and it would bankrupt JP Morgan Chase. Take that, Jamie Dimon. So we started this Crash JP Morgan buy silver campaign, and we got the price of silver from $15 up to $50. So we got it up to the old Hunt Brothers $50 level, and then the Fed, of course, came in. They changed the laws overnight to make it possible for these banks to have and carry a much greater short position in silver. So they printed up a lot of paper, silver derivatives, and they stopped the run on their bank, and the price of silver went back down to $15 or so. So we've seen that it is possible to force capitulation in that silver market. But at the end of the day, because the ability to pull private keys is not like it is with Bitcoin, I don't think it'll ever succeed. Whereas with Bitcoin, you can pull your private keys. Now, I mean, he is speaking facts right here. Warren Buffett, in his own words, has said, derivatives are financial weapons of mass destruction. The central bankers are using it to manipulate the markets. That's what they're doing with silver. That's what they're doing with gold and precious metals. And Max makes a great point. They don't want the gold and silver prices to rise up. It undermines the US dollar. They're trying to keep a strong dollar, right? So that's why gold has been pretty stable at like $2,000 and unable to really climb much above it. I think it's been pretty stagnant virtually for the past decade. So with the dollar inflating from them continuing to print trillions of dollars, the fact that gold isn't just continuously going up, it proves that the market is manipulated. You also got to consider as well, there is no scarce asset like Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a finite limited supply of 21 million coins. Yeah, gold may be rare or scarce, but they dump a new supply every year into the market. They can control it. They can invest more into discovering more gold. As Jack Mallers pointed out, Elon could maybe discover more gold on Mars. Who knows? Bitcoin, you can't say the same thing. Bitcoin is perfect money, it's incorruptible, it's unconfiscatable, and the list goes on and on. So if you had the choice to put your wealth somewhere, what asset class would you choose to put it in? Let me know, fam. And now welcome everyone to joining us. Shout out to everyone in the live chat. I appreciate all the support.